All right, the next thing we're going to talk about here is the 7 Years' War. But before we get into talking about the actual 7 Years' War, I want to give you a little background information. I want to give you a little contextualization about the 7 Years' War. So, 15 years before the 7 Years' War, there's a war in Europe that is really going to directly lead to the 7 Years' War. Okay, and it's called the War of Austrian Succession. So, in 1740, the king of Austria dies without a male heir, without a son. And his daughter, Maria Theresa, is going to take over as ruler. But in the moment that he dies, there's a lot of confusion about who's going to be the next ruler. And there's some arguing over who should be the next ruler since he didn't have a son, and should his daughter take over? I don't know. Um, and during this moment, the Prussians are going to take advantage of this confusion, and they're going to move into and they're going to take some land in Austria. So let's take a step back even further. Okay, Austria is this red area here, and Austria is the remnants of the old Holy Roman Empire, which had been around since, gosh, the 800 AD. Charlemagne created the Holy Roman Empire. He makes peace with the church. He expands from France into Germany and has this really large European empire. And it's on and off. It loses France. It becomes more in modern day Germany. Um, is it really a united empire during these periods? Not so much. It does have control over Rome and the Pope's support, so that kind of gives it some legitimacy. But after the 30 Years' War, which we studied in 1650, um, the Holy Roman Empire is officially broken up. Okay, it hadn't been fully together for a long time, but it was officially broken up. And all of this area that you see here become independent German princely kingdoms. Lords of the feudal system were given their own country. Okay, and Austria falls back into the area of modern day Austria, where its capital city is Vienna. The Austrians are ruled by this family called the Habsburgs, and they feel like we're still powerful enough. We should still have an empire. They had some land here in Belgium. They were connected with the Spanish through marriage, and they decide that they're going to move east and take some land from the Ottoman Empire. Now, the Ottomans had been starting in modern day Turkey. They, of course, took the great Christian city of Constantinople, ending the Eastern Roman Empire. They controlled the area here of the Balkans and southeastern Europe. They controlled parts of modern southern Russia. Um, and the Austrians move in and they take Hungary, they take Romania, they take Croatia, they take Slovenia, and Slovakia. They take some land from the Turks, okay, and they create this area here that we are going to call the Austrian Empire. So now we know that Maria Theresa's dad dies without a male heir, and right here is an area called Silesia. The Prussians, which are this area here, they kind of have this weird broken apart empire, Brandenburg, Prussia. They move into and they take this area of Silesia. Now, Prussia was a German princely kingdom that had gained a lot of strength, and largely it was through their military. They spent a lot of money on their military. They built up a 40,000 man army. At one point, I've read that they had the 10th largest population in Europe, but the fourth largest army. And they take Silesia, which caused Austria to declare war on them. France, who's kind of an enemy of the Holy Roman Empire, sees Austria as a rival. They declare war on Austria. Britain, who's an enemy of France since 100 Years' War in the 13 and 1400s, they declare war on France. And we have most of Europe at war. On top of that, the English take land here in Canada from the French. The French take land in India from England. This is widespread war. And at the end of the day, After 5 years of fighting or something, they end up saying, all right, let's just sign a peace treaty. Everyone give everything back except Prussia can keep Silesia. And this makes Austria mad. So it makes it so that the 7 Years' War is almost inevitable. And 10 years later, war is started between these areas again. Interestingly, this time along, France sees Prussia as a bigger threat. So France joins with Austria, and Britain then, of course, dislikes France. They join with Prussia. So we have kind of a switch there, a little flip-flop of allies. And now we have the 7 Years' War, which, by the way, interesting fact, Winston Churchill calls the First World War. Now, Winston Churchill, we'll find out, was the leader of Britain during World War II. He fought in World War I. He knows about world wars, and he calls this the First World War. So that's kind of an interesting fact. During this war, we're going to find that Europe, it's very similar to the Austrian Wars of Succession. There's not much movement. We talked about the flip-flop of sides, but in India, there's a lot more fighting, and the English pretty much wiped the French out in India, okay? In the Americas, the English decide we're going to take this area we call the Ohio River Valley. Now, the French had, the English had this land along the eastern seaboard, and the France had come in through the St. Lawrence River, and they claimed, Western Canada, or Eastern Canada, excuse me, and this area here they call Louisiana, went down the Mississippi, claimed land for France. They kind of thought that the Ohio River Valley was theirs, but the French never really sent settlers to live in this area. I mean, yeah, New Orleans had some Frenchmen, and Quebec up here had some Frenchmen, but there weren't a lot of French people who lived here, where the English had at this point, had a lot of people living in the colonies. So they fight a war, and interestingly, the Indians of this area, the Native Americans, they decide that they're going to join sides with the French, because the French were nice to them. They weren't looking to take their land and rule over them. They just wanted to trade with them, where the English they had seen had taken a bunch of land from Native American groups there. Actually, sometimes this war is called the French-Indian War in America, or in English, because the French and the Native Americans fought against the English and the American colonists. Well, the English end up controlling the waters off of the United States, which cuts off supply lanes for the French. The English always had a great navy, because they're an island. In 1759, the English defeat the French just outside Quebec, and the French then ask for peace in America. And they say, look, we'll give you the area of the Ohio River Valley if you let us keep this area of Canada, which they do. And now, well, the United States has a bunch of new land here, which they offer to colonists for free if you're willing to go out there and settle the land. And what that meant was fighting the Native Americans to keep that land, which many do. So a few interesting things about this war. First off, George Washington fought in this war for the English. He was captured in battle by the French, and then they let him go. What? Secondly, the war debt that was accrued by England, because wars are very expensive. Now, you guys may not remember this or know this, but in the last 20 years, we've fought 2 wars in our country, and these wars have been estimated to cost, I don't know, 4 or 5, upwards of $6 trillion, which we just put on our credit card because we didn't have the money to pay for it. So that means that my taxes are going to pay down that debt, and you guys will be paying for that debt for, as long as I'm working, and I don't know if we'll ever pay it off. We're not even making payments on it. We're just paying the minimum payment. It's a different story. And did we even win these wars? Did we lose these wars? We were supposed to have friends in Afghanistan and Iraq in these 2 wars we just fought. And are they our friends? Is the Taliban about to take back over in Afghanistan? What about Iraq? Is Iraq friends with us or Iran? Oh, when history looks back, what are we going to say about these wars? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, it costs a lot of money for the English. So the English want to raise taxes on the Americans. And the Americans say, sure, I'll pay your taxes. No problem. But I want a seat at the table. I want to be part of your parliament. I want to be part of your Congress. So I'll pay your taxes as long as I get representation in your government. And the English say, oh, no, no, you can't. You can't have representation in London. You guys are colonists. And the American colonists say, no taxation without representation. And this is going to be the beginning of the American Revolution. So again, the connections of what we're studying now to us, to our country.